Hello, my name is Patrice Mitchell, and I co-manage the investment banking program along with Andrea O'Neill. I would like to welcome all of you to the SEO-U Investment Banking Overview webinar. Today's webinar will focus on the following topics: the areas of corporate finance within an investment bank, roles within investment banking, analyst responsibilities, attributes of a good analyst, benefits of a position within investment banking, a day in the life of an analyst, next steps if you'd like to pursue opportunities in corporate finance, and resources you can use to learn more. After viewing this webinar, you should have the following takeaways. You should know exactly what investment banking is, why you want to do investment banking, why you're a good fit for investment banking, what you want to do as an SEO intern in investment banking, what resources you have to build industry knowledge and exposure, and you should feel confident going into an interview for SEO or any investment banking position. What is investment banking or corporate finance? Investment banking and corporate finance are two terms that are used interchangeably on Wall Street, but essentially it is the business of offering strategic and financial advisory services to corporate clients. And this is done in two ways: underwriting and mergers and acquisitions, or M&A. Underwriting is raising capital for corporate clients, and M&A is assisting in negotiating and structuring a merger or acquisition. There are three main areas of investment banking. There's investment banking coverage, capital markets, and mergers and acquisitions. So as you're viewing this webinar, you want to think about these areas and think about what's the best fit for you. First, we're going to talk about the investment banking coverage group. So the IB coverage bankers are the ones who manage the relationship between the firm and the corporate client. So whenever a bank is looking for new business, the IB coverage bankers are the ones who go out and find the business. So the senior people in the group are attracting companies to the bank and offering their services of the bank. They're generating ideas and presenting them through something called a pitch book. And the pitch book is just a PowerPoint presentation where you're trying to get the business by pitching the firm. So some things that are in the pitch book are the capability of the firm, and this is shown by league tables, which are just rankings of investment banks. You're also talking about the company itself, the history of the company, and the background of the bankers on the deal. You also talk about the market. And if, for example, if you're pitching an IPO, what are recent IPOs in the market and how feasible is it in the current market? And you're also talking about next steps for the pitch. It's going to be a very important part of your summer internship. A lot of what analysts do is preparing information for these pitch books. And about 70% of our interns get placed in the IB coverage group because most of the business is done through IB coverage. And they're split up into different industry groups. So as you see on this page, you have a sampling of what the industry groups are in IB coverage. So when you're thinking about what's your best fit, you can think about what am I interested in. So if you're really interested in healthcare and hospitals, there's a consumer healthcare group. Or if you're interested in media, there's a technology, media, and telecom group. The second area of investment banking is the capital markets group. In the capital markets group, you get to work with specific product groups instead of specific industries like you do in investment banking coverage. And about 20 to 25% of our interns get placed in the capital markets group. So in a capital raising activity, the IB coverage group looks to the capital markets group to provide insight into the client. And this is separated by two asset classes, equity and debt. The equity capital markets, you're focusing on raising capital for companies by marketing and selling equity to retail and institutional investors. And the debt capital markets, you're addressing the capital needs of companies by tapping into the debt market. You're also talking about the feasibility of a deal. So for example, in early 2009, there were no IPOs being done. So the capital markets groups would need to be honest with the client and tell them that now is maybe not the best time to do an IPO if there are no IPOs being done in the market. They also know about comparable transactions. So who else has done a deal of this type, and has it been successful? Capital Markets Group also focuses on investors. So who's going to buy the securities that you're planning to issue? They're also talking to investors. And so Capital Markets Group, they sit in the middle between a public and the private side. And so that's also very different because no other group gets to do this. The Capital Markets Group provides a holistic and complete view of investment banking. You have the opportunity to see a deal from the beginning, origination, to execution, and straight to the end in aftermarket trading. And you have the ability to interact with every investment banking group. So in the overall umbrella of investment banking, you have corporate finance, where the IB coverage group sits. You have the research group and the sales and traders. And so capital markets is able to interact with all of these different groups, which is something you wouldn't get to do if you were working in the IB coverage group. You're working with the corporate finance bankers to secure the mandate. You're speaking with the research team to understand the company and the offering. You're working with the sales team to set up meetings between the management of the company and investors. And you're generating interest for the orders. And then after pricing, you're working with the traders to monitor the trading of the securities. The capital markets bankers, because they're working with sales and trading, you also have a faster pace than you would if you were just an investment banking coverage. Because IB coverage, you have your projects and you have your deadlines and you know when things are going to happen. But with the sales and traders, you might have to turn things around very quickly. And so that's something to think about when you're thinking about what's the best fit for you. The last area of investment banking is the merger and acquisition group. If a client decides they would like to explore a possible acquisition, the bankers in the IB coverage group will look to its product partners in M&A. They tend to execute more than pitch, and because of this, they work longer hours than the other bankers. They're also typically the modeling gurus at the firm, given the complexity of some of the deals they work on. So why do companies acquire and merge with other companies? M&A can provide a source of growth. Companies may have an excess amount of capital and want to deploy that capital to grow the business. Through M&A, companies expect to gain synergies with a combination of the two businesses. And synergy can come in two forms. Revenue synergies are an additional amount of sales expected after the combination of two businesses. And cost synergy is the savings in operating costs expected after two companies who complement each other's strengths join. There are several types of M&A transactions that are listed on this screen. The strategic acquisition is the most common type of acquisition, and these are acquisitions where the acquiring company believes that there's a general benefit of a combination of the two businesses. About 5 to 10% of our interns get placed in merger and acquisition, and so M&A is what you think of what most people think of when they think about IB. It's also a very technical position, and it's very competitive. So you want to think about that when you're doing your fit analysis for investment banking. If you have any questions, this page shows the contact information for myself and Andrea O'Neill. And please feel free to contact us if you have any questions, if you want to know more about investment banking. Thank you for viewing this webinar.